What's up guys, Jabril here and welcome to a brand new episode of NeoVintage News. Now for you guys who don't know, basically I take the biggest stories from last week in gaming and talk about them, give you guys my thoughts, run through the details of it, and then towards the end of the show I give you guys what I've been playing and what my game recommendation of the week is. And we usually make good time, 25 to 45 minutes. So sit back, relax, and I'm gonna fill you guys in on the biggest stories of this week. So I guess we could start out with the Nintendo Direct Mini. Now this week, since it's coming up to August and that tends to be a dry spot in the games industry, we don't have a ton of stories. So we have 2 event-based stories and 2 regular stories. So not a ton of stories in terms of quantity, but lots to unpack with them. So let's start with the Nintendo Direct Mini. So the first Nintendo Direct Mini partner showcase has been released and some of the notable announcements were as follows. I'm going to go through the big ones. Some I have a lot of thoughts on, some not so much. So let's get into it. Let's start with the Cadence of Hyrule DLC. Now, for you guys who don't know what this is a version of Crypto the Necrodancer, which is kind of like a rhythm roguelike type RPG game. And they released a version called Cadence of Hyrule, which is all about Zelda characters in that gameplay style. And that version is getting DLC with additional characters, maps, and music. This game looks like they're releasing really high quality stuff, so I'm excited to see it get DLC. And for you guys who really like Zelda, this is more for you guys. Now, yes, is it from the Nintendo first party in the traditional Zelda gameplay style? No, not necessarily, but it is more, going into that world. It's that style, it's those characters that we've all come to love. So I suggest if you're a Zelda fan and you haven't jumped into this, give it a shot. It's not super expensive. I think you can pick it up for probably like around $20, at least a base game or something like that. So it's not too much and there's a lot of fun to be had there. So the next one that they talked about was Rogue Company, and it's basically like a free-to-play multiplayer third-person shooter coming to Switch. Not really my cup of tea, but I gotta say, these kind of like mature third-person multiplayer games would pretty much immediately go to die if it went onto PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, because again, that market is incredibly saturated and there's a million people trying to vie for that same industry, that same niche of the game industry, with way bigger budgets. So a game like this, like Rogue Company, I believe it's like Hi-Rez who's working on this, going onto Switch, where there's just a little bit less competition because there's way less multiplayer games available, might do well for them. So I hope for the best. I would love to see if they can get a little bit of traction, establish a really great fan base in the Switch ecosystem, but time will tell. The next one, WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Now, this is one that we've talked about a couple months back when it was first rumored, then they formally announced it on the podcast. And I had mixed feelings back then because, again, I was like, if we're not going to get a 2K21 game and, 2K20 was really botched, something arcadey in the mid zone where it could be basically NBA Jam to the NBA, could be this to the WWE games of real arcade fun, get all your friends, multiplayer, 4-player kind of crazy action. I think there's absolutely a fan base there, especially with all the great characters that WWE's established over these past years, including all their legacy content. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here, as long as they really put a lot of care into it. To be, completely honest with you guys, the more they show off to it, the more I'm kind of worried about the level of polish that we're getting with this game. I have a little bit of reservations on that. It's not looking too tight to me, but again, I'm going to keep an open mind with it, and hopefully by the time that it comes out, it's a way more polished, maybe more fun experience, but it's looking a little bit off to me personally. That's just my thoughts. But again, I'm not going to crap all over again because I do 100% think that there is a fan base, vying for something like this. So as long as they can deliver and hit that demand, I think they have a success on their hands. But, time will tell whether they're able to hit that or not. The next one's pretty big news, which is Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster. Now, for you guys that don't know, Shin Megami Tensei is a franchise that spawned off Persona back in the late 90s, I believe, on the PlayStation 1. Persona went off to do its own thing, its own style, introducing social links and stuff like that. And Shin Megami Tensei went a darker direction, a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more challenging, and a whole kind of different can of worms. And as a kid, I couldn't really get into Shin Megami Tensei. It felt like too dark, too hardcore of an experience for me. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten way more respect for them, looked back into the previous entries, old school stuff. And so seeing new Shin Megami Tensei games is really exciting. And this HD remaster, I don't know if this is one of the more well-regarded games. I can't tell you that. But I think this is certainly good to get more entries into this franchise. And I guess the big news that we could talk about is Shin Megami Tensei 5. Finally, we got more information about this. Now we got the kind of little leaked splash teaser that they gave at this point, like 2 years ago or something like that. It's been some time. And then finally we got like a full trailer for it that I've included footage for in the video, and it's looking pretty intense, man. Some of the imagery that they're invoking, and it feels distinctly Shin Megami Tensei, but at the same time it feels like a kind of new spin on it, and taking advantage of the new visual styles that they're able to explore on the Switch platform that obviously has more power than some of the 3DS entries had availability towards. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see if this does really well for them. This is a great platform for it. People really love, the JRPGs with the Xenogears and the Collar Malice and all the different games that are available on the Switch platform. I think this will be right at home for it, and hopefully we don't have to wait super long for it. I believe it said 2021 for a release date. So I guess we can move now on to the new Xbox event that happened. Microsoft finally held its July 23rd Xbox Series X Games event. And obviously this is going to be the one that was more first party with some partner content into it, as opposed to the previous one that was all third party relationships. So it started off and kicked off with Halo Infinite gameplay. Now this is the first time we've seen gameplay from their new Halo first party bread and butter game. This is pretty big. Obviously we've been waiting to see this for a while. They've revealed this, I think, with the Series X reveal, and to me it's looking really solid. Now, giving you guys a little bit of background on my own playstyle, I did not grow up with Halo. This is something I kind of experienced retroactively when I got my Xbox, and I was able to play Halo 1, Halo 2, and then I kind of filled myself in with the lore for 3 to 5. So I still have yet to play those, so take my opinion with a grain of salt if you want. But looking at the Halo Infinite gameplay, to me, it's invoking a lot of old school Halo with a lot of the polish and gameplay stylings of the later games. I saw some people critiquing this game's performance, but again, we don't know how far out from release this is going to be. But I believe this is a Xbox Series X launch game, if I'm not mistaken, in some capacity. It can't be a launch game, I guess, if it's available on last gen as well. Alright, I suppose it can. But yeah, the gameplay looked good to me. I know some people critiqued some of its performance issues. I did see that they said that it was running on a PC, which is interesting for them to be, advertising this new platform that's coming out for the next gen experience, and then run that next gen bread and butter game on a PC is interesting choice. But again, maybe the vertical slice was just a little bit more polished on the PC, and you want to put your best foot forward. The next one is one that I'm probably the most excited for, which is Avowed, which is the new Obsidian fantasy game. Now, for you guys that don't know, Obsidian, they're the ones who did Fallout New Vegas. They did Outer Wilds. They're working on this new game named Grounded, which is kind of like a survival third-person game. Not really my thing. And Avowed is basically apparently the new RPG that they're working on, where they're going into the fantasy realm, which is really interesting. So for you guys that don't know, they had worked with Bethesda back in the day on the Fallout series, and eventually, with Fallout 4, Bethesda took it back over and are working on it and doing their thing. And Obsidian went off and they're like, fine, they did their own thing, and they released Outer Wilds, which in many ways, to me at least, was Fallout just better than Fallout. Personally, that's how I felt. And it's interesting because it had the sci-fi realm, so it's like, is Outer Wilds going to be competing with Starfield when that comes out, in terms of just like when we play Starfield and we get basically Fallout in space? Is it immediately going to invoke like, this is just Outer Wilds done by Bethesda? Whatever. And now it seems like Obsidian is jumping into the fantasy realm, which means that basically it's jumping right into the Skyrim trajectory, which is basically Obsidian really nipping on the heels of their former business partners, Bethesda. So this is really interesting. I love Obsidian and the games that they've released, so I'm really excited to see what their spin on fantasy is, and apparently it's going to be massive and in-depth, and I have a lot of faith in their ability to release good quality experiences, in a timely manner too. They turn around things in pretty good time, way faster than Bethesda, obviously. So I'm excited for this, and I'm curious to see when it comes out and what the scale is, because again, Outer Wilds was a great experience, a large experience in theory, but it's like the 25 to 30 hour large, as opposed to like, the hundreds of hours that you can possibly spend in like a Skyrim, for example. So it was a little bit more streamlined, but to me it was a lot more polished. So I wonder if they're going to do that with this new fantasy game, where it's going to be like a 30-hour experience, so a lot shorter than something you get with like Skyrim, but it's a lot more of a streamlined, polished experience. Possibly. I don't know. That's just speculating on my part. But I'm excited to see what they deliver here. We got Forza Motorsport. This is obviously the track-based version of the Forza series as opposed to the Forza Horizon, which is way more like environmental kind of driving. I'm definitely more into the Horizon games, but I'm excited to check this out. And obviously, for you guys who are in the Xbox ecosystem, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, or any of the iterations of that, you'll have access to everything they announced to this day one with your Game Pass subscription. So that's going to be awesome. So even games that you're like, not really for me, you don't have to worry about putting any additional money into it. Give it a shot. So that's the great thing about being part of the Xbox ecosystem, is things that you might not be willing to try because you don't want to fork out $60 for. Don't worry about it. Day one, they're going to be available on Game Pass, and you could give it a shot. And if, hey, you play 20 minutes, half an hour, and you're like, nah, it's not for me, don't worry about it. No harm, no foul, no additional money lost. But you get to experience pretty much everything in the Xbox ecosystem if you're paying that subscription model. So amazing bang for your buck. But again, I don't have to sell you guys on Game Pass. You guys all know what it is. And obviously that's available for you guys on PC too as well. So yeah, Forza Motorsport, looking polished, looking great. Obviously they're always pushing the limitations of the hardware, but the Motorsport franchise is not really my slice of what I like from Forza. State of Decay 3, really interesting. When they kind of launched the trailer in that snowy environment, for a second I was like, ooh, is this a new Metro game or something like that? But no, State of Decay 3. State of Decay 2 was actually pretty fun. Admittedly, I'm not a super fan of the State of Decay games, but I had a little bit of fun in that. I played it for maybe a couple hours, State of Decay 2. So 3, I'm hoping for even more polish, even more content, and maybe different environments that we didn't get to see in 2 and 3. So we'll see how this one turns out. We got stuff from the Crossfire X campaign, Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. Phantasy Star Online 2 is getting an expansion called the New Genesis. That looks really, really solid. The Gunk. We get new stuff from Tetris Effect, which is connected. It looks like 2 new modes, so you're getting like multiplayer and stuff like that. So excited to jump into that. I loved Tetris Effect. It was one of my favorite games of the year it came out. I believe that was 2018 if I'm not mistaken. And I got it around Christmas time, so I got it a little bit late. But man, that game is flawless, top to bottom. And so more stuff for that, I'm all for it. We got Stalker 2. We have As Dusk Falls. Outer Worlds DLC, as I mentioned before. Outer Worlds, and I know people butcher that all the time. Outer Worlds is an Obsidian game, and that's getting full DLC. But the interesting thing is that this is not being done by Obsidian. This DLC is going to be done by actually the port team that worked on the Switch version of that. So yeah, that's really, really exciting, and I'm definitely jumping into that day one. We have Tell Me Why, which is the new Don't Nod game. Now, for you guys that don't know, Don't Nod are the team that did Life is Strange, and so Tell Me Why is their new game. And it seems very stylistically similar to the Life is Strange games, and it seems also that it's going to be released in an episodic structure too as well. So for you guys who liked Life is Strange 1 and 2, and also I forget the name of that game, but the spin-off game they did, this one definitely seems in line with that style. We have Everwild, which is the new Rare game. Now, obviously, Rare is an iconic game studio in the game industry, formerly associated with Nintendo until they were bought out by Microsoft, and since then, they've been releasing stuff on Microsoft. They did the Rare Replay Collection and some other stuff. And so we're getting Everwild, and it looks really, really solid. It has that kind of cell shaded is not the right word, but that style of visuals that we've come accustomed to from Rare games. It's very colorful, it's very over the top, but it seems like they're going for more of a spiritual, environmental, atmospheric tone to this one instead of more of the quirky tones that you maybe were familiarized with them back in the day. So yeah, Everwild looks really, really solid. We have Balan Wonderworld, Hello Neighbor 2, Exo Mecha, and then Echo Generation. And then it kind of capped off with one of the biggest announcements of this conference, which is Fable. Fable is coming back in some capacity. Now, it's important to know that it is not coming back with their original team. I believe Playgrounds is going to be the one working on this. I'm assuming this is a reboot. It's just called Fable. We don't know what this is. So I don't think this is a formal Fable 4. We don't know yet. We don't have any additional information on this other than kind of like a little teaser trailer or something like that. But that's pretty big. For you guys that don't know, Fable, backwards compatible on the Xbox One. So if you want to go back and experience all the 3 main games, you can. There was some spin-off stuff during the 360 era. There was a card game that came out, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, these are, third-person, environmental, open world RPGs. You can go level progress, experience kind of like a fantasy environment. There's kind of a narrative thread that threads the 3 main games together. 3 wasn't received so well, if I'm not mistaken, but the original one's an absolute classic, and so I'm excited to see them dive back into that, and just the Xbox first party studios having a little bit more diversity other than the kind of Forza, Halo, Gears rotation. Having some more stuff to kind of diversify that is only going to be the benefit of the Xbox ecosystem. So I'm really excited to jump into that. Okay, the next big story is Junji Ito and Kojima are working together. So, renowned Japanese horror mangaka Junji Ito has revealed that Hideo Kojima recently contacted him about working together on a new horror game. So, rumors of Kojima being interested in jumping back into horror seems to be true. This has been rumored for quite a while. Obviously, he was working on the PT thing, and that all fell on its face, and it fell apart. Then he came back and gave us Death Stranding, and then there was rumors that maybe he would like to jump back into horror. What that takes the form of, we don't know. There's rumors that he was going to reboot an existing franchise. There was like the Silent Hill thing again. There was rumors that he was going to do something completely original, and who knows. But yeah, it seems like he's had a meeting with Junji Ito. Now, for you guys that don't know, Junji Ito is a legend in the manga scene. I am a massive fan of him. I got shirts dedicated to him. For you guys who have watched the content, y'all have seen me wear Junji Ito stuff. I have a lot of his compilations over there and his solo work. He has a new English translated work coming out in August. So I pretty much buy everything I can of his and read. I love his writing. I love his horror styling. His art is some of the most phenomenal horror art I've ever seen in my life. Personally, that's just my taste. And Kojima's a visionary in his own sense in the games industry. So these two, in my opinion, if you're going to do a horror game, is a match made in heaven. Nobody's better at body horror than Junji Ito, in my opinion, and at least in the mainstream sense. And Kojima, in terms of just mind F playing around, crazy, I don't know what I'm looking at type of stuff, Kojima's a master of that too. So getting these two together sounds like a match made in hell in many ways, just horrifying what we're going to get out of them, but I'm excited to see, and I hope this comes to fruition, unlike PT that kind of fell apart. I think we need this game. Whatever they're working on, we need this. The last story we have is about the Sucker Punch leaked project Prophecy. So gameplay for a canceled project worked on by the Ghost of Tsushima developer Sucker Punch has leaked online, and it's codenamed Prophecy. The leak has first appeared on 4chan and appears to stem from the portfolio of a Sucker Punch character artist uncovered via the Ghost of Tsushima's credits. More details on the original stories are on IGN.com. I'll drop the link down below to the story where I got this information, and it has the YouTube clip for the leaked footage, but I'm also going to include it right here down below so you can see how this game looks, and it looks really, really interesting. There's a lot of gameplay styles that definitely invoke a lot of the stuff that you do in Ghost of Tsushima. Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima is stylistically so different, so some of the weapon choices and the navigational stuff are more catered to that gameplay style. This one is interesting. It's more Renaissance era and stuff like that. And to me, it immediately gave me the vibe oh, this is almost kind of like an alternate reality where Assassin's Creed didn't go super open world or anything like that. That it went to kind of dark, Renaissance killing, but with a lot of modern polish and modern navigation. That's what it gave to me. It gave me, again, a lot of Sucker Punch meets Assassin's Creed, and it's really interesting to see something like this come to fruition. And obviously this game was canceled or something like that, so we're never getting Prophecy. For you guys who are seeing this footage, it's oh, I can't wait to play that. This is not coming out. They obviously reallocated a lot of that engine and stuff like that to Ghost of Tsushima, and then what they do in the future, we have no clue yet. So it's not going to be this game, but it's really interesting to see what could have been, and that's why I love seeing these leaked projects. It's just so interesting to see these projects that look, and again, this could have just been a vertical slice and nothing else existed, but to see games that seemingly appear so far in development never make it out, especially games like with Star Wars 1313 and stuff like that. It's just mind-blowing that so many resources and so much time and so much effort were put into these projects that never saw the light of day is absolutely nuts to me. But I guess so it is for some game developers, unfortunately. But yeah, for you guys that are interested in this, there's a lot more information, so I highly suggest you go click that link down below and follow the information chains they have down there. Lots of information. Unfortunately, the 4chan thread that everything came from for this has been archived and stuff like that, and there was kind of some video hosting services that are dead, but it is on YouTube if I'm not mistaken, if you would like to watch it on your own. So I guess we can move into the latter parts of the show, which is games I've been playing. So similar to last week, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario. Ghost of Tsushima, without any spoilers, I basically entered the second act of the game where you go to a different part of the map and you have access to a whole different, narrative and stuff like that. And I'm definitely this game is hitting me a lot like Assassin's Creed Odyssey hit me. And for you guys that don't know, I was a massive fan of Odyssey. Personally, I really enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It was definitely to my style. I love the Greek imagery. I love the open world. I love the crazy different stories that you bump into, and I love Cassandra as a character. And so Ghost of Tsushima is hitting me a lot way. I really like Jin. I love Tsushima as a world. I love the different narratives they set up and the little vignettes that they have in here. So I'm really enjoying it, and I wouldn't say I'm doing a completionist run, but I'm pretty much playing everything as it pops up to me. So I'm not doing a story run like I did where like sometimes if I just want to get the story of a game and I don't want no more other drama, yeah, I just go straight to that and I do mission until I beat the game, and usually I could beat the game in like a week or so. But this one I'm not even touching a lot of the story stuff. I touched the story stuff obviously to get to act 2, but since I've been in that second part of the map, I haven't really touched that much story stuff. It's all been the little character vignettes to get my character stronger and stronger and unlock different parts of the world and stuff like that. So that's how I'm playing it. I'm having a great time with this, and again, once I finish this game, maybe I'll do a spoiler cast on that. I didn't end up doing the Last of Us spoiler cast because I felt like the conversation around Last of Us 2 was just so toxic, and I didn't even want to dive into that. People didn't seem like to really want to talk like about this game honestly and critically, so I didn't even bother talking about that. But Ghost of Tsushima seems to have a way healthier dialogue about it, so I'll more than happily do a spoiler cast on that once I finish it. But again, I'm taking my time with this game, so who knows when that'll come. Paper Mario, a little bit deeper into that. I'm having a great time with that. I love the world. It's really fun. It's really quirky. The writing is great. I like the general gameplay. I don't love the battle mechanics in terms of the puzzles and stuff like that, especially once you go to boss battles. I find it more annoying than anything. I see what they're doing, and I think it's really creative, but I'm not really into puzzles that much. And if it's the normal encounter puzzles, that's fine enough. But when they're like talking direction and you're doing hearts and this special abilities and stuff like that, it gets a little convoluted for me. Not in terms of overcomplicated, but just more work than it seems to be worth. And I don't find boss battles to be that fun personally speaking. But generally speaking, I love Paper Mario, the Origami King. I think they did a fantastic job with this. And I'm excited to see the game, all the way through. And then lastly, I reference these games with my big game acquisition video that I just released, like on Tuesday or something like that, which I basically explained all the games that I had purchased over the past few weeks. And some of them were the Naruto Clash of Ninja games. And so these are the games that I've been playing lately. And if you wanted me to go into like super depth with any of these, let me know in the comment section down below. And also in the game video that of all my purchases, I did give you guys my general thoughts on it. But yeah, I've been playing pretty much all of these, all different things as they were coming in. Clash of Ninja, the first one, is a classic, obviously. This is a 5-game series. Clash of Ninja 2 is the one I grew up with. Clash of Ninja Revolution 2 is the one that I'm personally liking the most because it actually has an original narrative, which is really interesting. So all these basically just follow the story of the anime. But this one actually has an original story featuring 2 new characters that are part of the Anbu Black Ops, fighting off a different, antagonists and everything. And it's really interesting, and I like the way it plays. I like the character design and stuff like that. So I'm having a great time with that, and I never played these as a kid. Revolution, the first one, is pretty much more of the same. The only difference is that it goes into the Sasuke Itachi introduction of the Akatsuki arc, and then Clash of Ninja 3 Revolution is the one that goes into Shippuden and stuff like that. So they each kind of offer their own different stuff. There's a little bit of redundancy between like Clash of Ninja 2 and Clash of Ninja Revolution 1. But other than that, they all kind of offer a different experience, and I'm kind of bouncing back and forth in between them and having a great time with them. So shout out to Naruto Clash of Ninja. They're all relatively inexpensive. I got them all on Amazon total for less than like $30 and stuff like that. So definitely look into them if you're interested in playing Naruto Clash of Ninja or Naruto games in general that are not the Ultimate series. They have a lot to offer too as well. And then my ghost recommendation of the week, it's SpookyGhost.com. Now this is a game that actually came out around Halloween, and I bought it on Switch some time ago. and I had a lot of fun with it, and I was kind of looking for something to dive back into and give you guys a game recommendation of something that's fun, it's light, it's inexpensive, and something, you know, you could have a little bit of fun for, and it's spookyghost.com. So basically the description on the site goes as it's a small Metroidvania about a ghost hunter named Ruby. One Halloween night, a ghost hunting job comes in, but it turns out to not be a regular gig. And this is on PC and Switch. I got it on Switch, but it's available on Steam and itch.io. So go check that out. I highly recommend it. It's really inexpensive. I got it for less than $5 personally, and I don't think it's beyond that as well. You can get at least, I mean, if you go really hard on it, you could bang through it in an hour if you want. But you can get a little bit more time if you explore and have a little bit more fun with it, and, you know, battle the different enemies that has to offer and get all the collectibles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of fun to be had there, and I wanted to recommend you guys that. And you guys know that when it comes to game recommendations of the week, I always like to skew towards the smaller niche titles that people don't know about, to give those smaller developers a shout out. So yeah, that's the NeoVintage news drop for this week. Again, I'll be here next Sunday with a whole new drop of news for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more content around, you know, new game releases and retro game releases. We kind of hit everything. There's gameplays on this channel, there's unboxings, there's news videos like this, and eventually there will be more podcasting stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this is Jabrel from NeoVintage Games. I love you guys.